Welcome back to Montana. My name's Tim, and this is my wife's 2009 Chevy Tahoe LTZ. I just got done doing all the suspension updates on this truck that has almost 200,000 miles on it. In this video, I'll be replacing the aluminum lower control arms, which includes the lower ball joint and bushings. I've also done tie rod ends, upper control arms with the ball joint, and sway bar end links on this truck, so you can check those out in the other videos. What I did in video are the rear control arms and the sway bar bushings, because I had some issues with the bolts there, and that would not have been a fun video. So without further ado, let's check it out. On the driver's side now, because on the passenger side, I need a new CV axle, and I don't want to take it out and have to put it back in, so I'm just going to wait to do the lower control arm and ball joint when the new axle comes in. That's a mouthful. So on the driver's side, I already have the upper control arm replaced over here and the sway bar end link. And today, what we're going to do is going to take off this nut, take off the bottom of the shock, take off the carrier bolts, and pull the lower control arm off. Now, these lower control arms don't need to be replaced. They're aluminum, they're in good shape, and they sell a new ball joint, and I have new bushings to hopefully be able to press into the end there. A couple things before I get started. I've got the knuckle and the upper control arm supported by this bungee, which is probably going to stretch a little bit. Don't want it to fall down too much. I've also already loosened the axle nut here. This, I believe, is a 36 millimeter, but I don't have a deep socket to get past the end of the nut. So I used an 1 7/16 and it worked. And you just put a crowbar between a couple of the lug nuts, and you could use a hand tool, but I just used my impact on it. When tightening these later, make sure we get some Loctite on there. This is usually a third step, but I just want to make sure I can get it off. So first, we'll take off the sway bar link, then the shock mount, and then we'll take off the rest of this. And I don't know, these sway bar end links can be 14, 15, 16 millimeter, perhaps others, depending on your manufacturer or if it's OEM. In my case, these are 14. And the washer and the bushing from the bottom. I set these aside and save them. And I've got them marked, and I will remark them. This should be able to separate out once we drop the lower control arm. Now I'll remove the lower shock bolts, and these are a 17. Mine are 17 because I have the rough country 2-inch level. Yours may be different. Let's see if we can get that on there. Might have to come in from the bottom. Yep. Whoop. That came out nice and easy. Put those on about 4 years ago. It's nice living in an area without rust. Definitely need to come in from the bottom on this side. I'm gonna have to lower that. Raise the axle. Let's see. Don't have enough clearance with the axle there. Okay. Let's see. At least get the box end in. Maybe I did pull the axle to put that shock mount in, because that bolt is, there's no clearance and the axle's right in the way. These have a bolt and 2 washers in that. Well, there's definitely play in the axle, so I'm not going to need to bang on this to get it out. So I'm going to take the nut off now. There's a nut and a washer. Next up is the lower ball joint nut, and this is a 24. Now I'm going to try and loosen this. And once it's loose, we're going to use a ball joint separator. It's probably going to want to fight me. Oh, there we go. Good. See if it's rotating. Might need to go get an Allen key. Oh, we're good. Cool. Okay. I'm going to loosen this a little bit here. So you can use a ball joint remover, but today we're just going to beat on it. I don't really care about the ball joint, so I can hit the nut if I need to, but I'm going to start by tapping on the knuckle.
Give it some love tap, see if she wants to come out. But my ball joint pullers aren't strong enough. So I'm gonna pry this bar a little bit. I got the lower ball joint to move a little bit. I don't know what I was thinking, but I remember the other day, I'm like, oh yeah, I do need to take out the axle because there's no clearance for the arm to lift out of the knuckle with the ball joint on it. And I also can't get that shock out. So the shock and that and the sway bar link are gonna be impeding with the travel of this. So I'm under here now. I just got some PV blaster on there and a breaker bar, and this is a 15 mil. And I'm just taking these off one at a time. And I've got a screwdriver, if you can see that, a screwdriver in the rotor to keep the axle from moving because it's not a four-wheel drive and both wheels are off the ground. So I'm gonna get going and do these. Just take them off, rotate the wheel, and get the rest off of there. Check back in a minute. I got these extendable ratchets for the car for keeping in a tool bag and not taking up much space and be able to do lug nuts. But I want one for the garage because this has been invaluable the past couple weeks. I got the bolts off the top of the shock mount and I left the third one on so that the shock wouldn't totally come out because aligning on things is a pain, and we don't need to do that. If you're wondering, they're 18 millimeter. I was able to get the axle out now that there's clearance to move the shock around. So hopefully now I can just get the control arm out of this knuckle. I think all of it's because I've got the leveling kit on the front, don't have the normal clearance. So taking the nuts off the through bolts, it's 18 on the bolt side. It's 18 on the bolt side and 24 on the nut side. And hopefully I'll be able to get the control arm down and pivot all this stuff out now. Both through bolts are out, and I'm gonna see if I can get the control arm down now, gently. Yep, she's moving. There we go. Yeah, that's coming out. Yeah, we're out. Okay, good deal. Okay, it's been a couple days. I've been sick, had some time off, was waiting on parts. Got the new control arms with the ball joints in them. So now it's time to reverse engineer this thing back together, given that it can't go back together stock with the spacer for the shock. So the first thing I'm gonna do is get this lower control arm bolted back into the frame. Just to recap, I have a new upper control arm in, which has the ball joint in it. I've got a new tie rod end, a new sway bar end link, which is currently disassembled, and now we're putting in the lower control arm. The axle is out. I'm not gonna replace this axle. It seems to be okay. Although I do have an axle for the passenger side as the boot is torn, and it's been torn for a few years, and I figure I'm not just gonna replace it this time. I have to take it out anyway. Might as well replace the entire axle. I'm using a new little tiny tripod I got for Christmas, and we'll see how that works. It is magnetic, but there's nothing in the way right now. Oh, because it comes in from the top. Aha. Oh, I was thinking the bolt came in from the bottom. Little brute force. So after some malleting, I got it close and I took the screwdriver and came in from the back side and pried this up so that it would be nice and even. And it popped in. So there's two different length bolts. The shorter bolt goes on the front and it goes in from the front to the back. At least that's how it is on the passenger side. And then the washer goes on the nut side. Had that one finger tight. Straightened up a little bit, and I found out that I had both washers tight on there. So if you lost a washer, let's see if you put them both on. But washer and nuts are hand tight. It's the worst working with greasy junk. There we go. Get there. Get there, yeah. Trying to crush my fingers here. Get there. Yeah, we're in. Okay. Let's see if I can get the axle. All right, I'm back from lunch and I checked the footage and I realized that these bolts got to go in last for the way I have it. Again, it's because I've got the 2-inch lift in the front. And so what that does is the bolts have to go in from the top on that side. Just gonna get it started here on the bottom. Get the nut to hold it. In theory. Let's see. There we go, lined up. All right, we're getting there. All right, so I've got this bolt on the shock. Just started. I've got the bottom of the ball joint supported on the jack and jacked up a little bit. So hopefully we can get this control arm in now. Forgot to mention, I threw a bolt back there on the axle. Just make sure that wouldn't go anywhere. But got the bolts in. I had to get underneath the truck and strong arm it. And there's no way to get a camera angle for that. Or at least no easy way without switching tripod. Now it's time to get the rest of the shock in. The rest of the bolts on the axle with some thread locker. And then these bolts on the control arms with the washers. Then the axle nut. And unless I'm forgetting something, I think we're good to go on this side. So let's get the rest of these back together. Start out slowly so I don't frustrate anything. Okay. Now I'll do the castle nut. It's really been pretty good. Took some finagling, but I got this bolt in. I had to do a little bit of lining up with a screwdriver and then hammering into position a little bit with the mallet. Here's 20, 24. Castle nut's 24. So let's get this a little bit tighter here. Okay. my best work, but that should do. So I wasn't thinking, and I don't believe I tightened these at ride height, so I loosened them up. Now I'm going to jack it up. Now I'm going to jack up the control arm and we'll retighten them at ride height. All right, while I'm under compression, I'm going to do these shock mounts. Hopefully you'll stay there. I've got a screwdriver in the rotor. The rotor doesn't want to spin. And then I'm gonna put some Loctite on these and get them on there. I don't really need it, but it really can hurt, especially with spinning driveline components. A little bit's all you need, just a drop. And use the blue stuff, not the red stuff. All right, now that you're down here, maybe it's a little better. Try and get them hand tight on there first, but you can see just a little bit of Loctite. See, we can kill two birds with one stone. All right, now they're hand tight. Get them. We'll get them good and tight now. All right. Okay. If you're wondering, these are 15 millimeter, if I didn't say it. All right, I'm just gonna check these through guys again. You just take the screwdriver out, and then there's slots in the rotor. You just find a slot in there and you're good to go. So you take it out, rotate till the bolts are seen that you want to see, and then stick it back in there. That way when you go to loosen or tighten, you've got a brake there that will allow you to untorque the bolt versus spinning the axle. While we're here, let's get the axle nut on. I'm gonna put a little Loctite in here just for good measure. Here, but I'm just gonna go by hand first. I love this wrench. I just went out and bought another one. So I usually just kept them in the car just for space saving so I could do lug nuts, but man, it's been so handy in this job. I bought another one. I'm gonna keep this one in my tools, and then the other one will just go back in the car toolbox for this car. There we go. Okay. Give it some ugga-luggas, and then we'll test it out. If I'm reading the book correctly, this should be 177 foot-pounds, and those are 52, I think. Whatever vehicle you own, you should pick up one of these manuals. They are indispensable. Sometimes they're a little bit vague because they cover multiple models, and it's, you know, obviously I don't have a Silverado or Sierra, but the Tahoe is the same underneath. The difference is the Tahoe has, you know, third row seat and not a bed. But basically the underlying components are all the same on those. Pick one up for your vehicle, it's well worth it. This is about as long as any of my torque wrenches are. I'm not gonna get any more than that, so I'm just gonna, I can't get any tighter than that. So I think we're good. I'm gonna come back and do the sway bar end links a little bit later as I'm working on the other side. Last up is getting the shock tower bolts back on. Hand tight to start. It's an 18. This truck was originally from the Northeast, which is why it's such a rust bucket. But thankfully, it seems to just mostly be cosmetic. All right, make sure you get the wire harness. Make sure you get the wire harnesses attached. All the harnesses are out of the way. We can get this bad boy back on there. Okay, good to go.
Well, that's it for the series on updating the suspension on the Tahoe. I hope it helped you out. If you haven't seen the other videos, check them out. I've got some videos on my 2500 Silverado coming out as well soon with similar suspension work and some upgrades there. But again, hope to help you out. Please like, favorite, subscribe, all that good stuff. Comment, you know, I try and get back to you as soon as I can. I'm not always logged in with this username. But until next time, may God bless you and keep standing up for what's right.